Okay, thank you, Amber, for that wonderful introduction. Um, Thank you. Okay, so good afternoon, everyone. Um, Enjoy your lunch, but so meanwhile, just by show of hands, how many of you have worked with clients who have ITINs? Okay, so a good amount of people. That's good. So I think today we'll go a little bit behind the scenes on, ITIN and how it gets issued, and some of those history. So we'll cover that. So this is my bio. I'm from Phoenix. My company is Phoenix ITIN and Tax Services, because that was one of the first things I was offering, ITINs, for my clients. So and I'm from Phoenix, so I named it like that. And then I do a lot of resolution work, so I also did a DBA to do the tax resolution work, North Phoenix tax relief. So as part of the ITIN, I'm also a certifying acceptance agent, which I will cover later in the slide. I also have a master's in tax from Golden Gate, specialized in international taxation. And I recently passed the USTCP exam, the last cycle. And good luck to all the folks who are writing it next week. And I do a lot of income tax returns for new immigrants, their spouses, children, and I get ITINs. I get a lot of FIRPTA-related cases, which again, you need an ITIN as a starting point. And then I do a lot of FBAR filings and streamlined disclosure filings, which again, on the international world, this is, people who haven't filed tax returns, people with high penalty forms. So there is a process to bring them into compliance. You can't just do blind, amended returns. Okay, so a little bit of history as far as ITINs go. So before 1996, the government was issuing, the Social Security Administration, they were issuing SSN numbers, Social Security numbers, even for filing, returns, which were, for people who were not authorized to work. But they had a filing obligation, and they needed a number. The Social Security Administration was issuing SSN numbers with the notation, not authorized to work. And that had been going on for a long time, and it was an administrative nightmare on the IRS side. It sort of was accumulating, and I'm pretty sure some of you may be able to attest to that. So again, IRS needed a number on all the tax filing, filings, information returns, W-2s, 1099s, and many of them did not. So they were making up numbers and filing returns, and it would not match the SSA records. Again, there were people doing it, and on the IRS side, the compliance was a nightmare. They were not able to match the withholdings. They were not able to do all that, which led to a large suspense file, because they had all these balances sitting there with, without people to go against, right? Without a name and a correct number to go with. And the returns were not matching with the IRS master files. So then IRS was issuing penalties, balances were not getting collected, and so on. So it was an administrative problem. And then it was also creating a Social Security number crisis, because the IRS databases had millions of invalid SSN numbers, right? Without matching to the Social Security Administration. IRS had numbers, did not match the Social Security Administration, right? And again, it was becoming a compliance nightmare, and then, people were losing trust, with the government if you have this. So it led to data integrity issues, and the other side was Social Security Administration. They were getting, overburdened, because they were having to issue all these numbers, right? So overall, there was a big problem brewing with this social security numbers for people who were not authorized to work. So it was sort of evident, around that 96 time frame, it was evident that, they needed a number that was separate for people who were not eligible for social security numbers. It was becoming very clear. And, they were seeking comments on, we know we need a number. It should not be a social security number. So who should be the one issuing it, right? Who is the best person to issue it? Should it be the Social Security Administration? Or maybe it was the INS. Again, this is back in 96, so the Immigration Nationalization Service. Should it be the INS issuing the numbers, or should it be IRS, right? And then I think after some debate, they settled on having the IRS issue these numbers because the primary purpose was a tax purpose. So, okay, fine, IRS, you issue the numbers, right? And then the bonus aspect of that was, it was independent of the immigration Title 8 section, right? So this was strictly for taxpayer reasons, for tax reasons. So IRS, you issue the numbers. So in that 1996, that is when the code section 6109, little I, that was signed into law. Bill Clinton was the president at the time. So 1996 is when this came about. And the government, the IRS, started issuing ITINs to individuals who have a tax obligation. But they have a tax obligation, but you're not eligible for a Social Security number because of various reasons, right? Social Security Administration has strict rules on who should get it. You should be authorized to work, visa status, and so on and so forth. So they have some rules. And if you don't qualify, but you still have to file a tax return, you need a number. ITIN was the solution for that. Again, the 6109, little I, that's the code section, and the corresponding regulations, the 301.6109-1, B, D, and a few other paragraphs which go with that. So this is the ITIN. So it stands for Individual Taxpayer ID Number, and it's a tax processing number issued by the IRS to, there are residents based on substantial presence test and so on. They would qualify non-resident aliens. They will get, ITINs. Spouses and dependents. And pretty much anybody who goes on a tax return, you need a number. And if you don't get an SSN, you get this ITIN, right? And it's available to persons it is available to persons who are required to have a taxpayer ID number for federal tax purposes and who cannot obtain an SSN. Okay, so again, the ITIN is issued to residents, non-resident aliens, and it's issued regardless of immigration status. So again, I get a lot of calls, and I say, yeah, I don't have status and so on and so forth. And I say that is all Title 8. IRS only cares about money. You have money, pay taxes, they are happy. So they'll happily give you a number. That's the answer I give them. And so all the ITINs, they start with the number 9. So even though it looks like a Social Security number, 9 digits and so on, this one, it's also a 9-digit number, but it starts with the number 9. Okay? And it's issued to individuals to comply with US taxation rules. And the other thing is, if you are eligible for a Social Security number, and that's one of the things that, certifying acceptance agent, we have to do a quick check. If you are eligible for a Social Security number, then you cannot apply for an ITIN, right? So that's something just to be aware of. Okay, and again, if you have questions, feel free to, interrupt me. Okay, So couple of limitations with the ITIN. It does not allow you to work. It's not an authorization. Again, it's strictly for tax purposes. It's not for authorization to work. Before, they would not mention that on the form, on the ITIN letter. Now they have started writing that it does not give you authorization to work. And obviously, it doesn't allow you to access Social Security benefits, earned income tax credit, and so on. So, and again, as Amber was mentioning, many provisions, many credits explicitly states you need a Social Security number. So if you have this, you don't qualify. So you have to look at those rules when it comes to that. And again, this has nothing to do with immigration, so it doesn't change your immigration status, none of that stuff. That's all Title 8, this is all Title 26. Okay, so now the big question is, who needs an ITIN? When do you need it? Who needs it, right? So again, as I said before, there are a lot of US residents who do not qualify for Social Security numbers. So you have the spouse coming into work. For work reasons, you get Social Security number, but the dependents, the spouse, they do not qualify for a Social Security number. Again, there are certain visa statuses and so on, but generally, spouse and dependents, they do not qualify for a Social Security number. But so because of that, for them to go on a tax return on a 1040, you need a number. So this is where this comes in, right? Similarly, you have foreign people, so foreign persons, non-resident aliens, who have effectively connected income within the US. So they have some US asset that's generating income. They have effectively connected income within the US, and they have a filing obligation. They need an ITIN, right? They need a number. The Social Security Administration will not give them, so IRS will issue an ITIN, right? Similarly, non-resident aliens, they are treated as residents under the substantial presence test. So again, if they have a filing obligation, and they become residents, they would qualify for an ITIN, right? And again, foreign person, non-resident aliens, if they have a filing obligation, an NR return, 1040 NR return, they would need a number. Similarly, the W8BEN, so some of the beneficial entity forms, the beneficial forms, they would, if they have to provide a withholding certificate to their employer or whoever it is, all of them need a number, right? Similarly, classification of business entities. Some business entities, it relies on the person who is applying for it. They all need numbers. Similarly, if you need to claim a refund for treaty benefits, so again, there are certain treaty provisions. For example, interest is normally statutory at 30%. If you want to claim a reduced treaty benefit, you need a number. And then, there are, visiting professors coming from other countries, for some speaking engagements, some researchers who come and, do some research work. So when they get paid, they need a number. So that's, again, they won't qualify for an SSN, so this is the fallback for that. Okay, so how do you get an ITIN? Who issues them? Right? How do you get it? So it's Social Security Administration is definitely not the one. They are not in the business of this. So IRS is the one who issues the ITIN. But they don't just because you ask for it, they are not going to give it to you. You have to give them a valid reason. Why do you need the number? What is the purpose? Right? Why do you need it? And I get calls all the time. I need an ITIN. Can you help me with it? And my first question to them is, who is asking for it? And most of the time, I don't get an answer. I'm like, oh, I just need it. Whenever you come to US, you need a number. So I want to proactively apply. I said, no, it doesn't work that way. You have to give the IRS a strong reason. So who is asking for the number? And then they would say, oh, my bank is asking for a number. Okay, great. That's a good answer. Okay, can you tell the bank, to give you a letter that, they won't open up a bank account for you, without an ITIN? Then I'll be happy to apply. And that's, some of them will say, fine, I'll go talk to my bank. And many cases, I don't get a call from them. And the reason, I'll go into it. Sometimes people will again call, oh, my employer is asking for it. Okay, that's Title 8, but that's okay. Can you ask your employer to give you a letter? That they can't do withholdings for you without the number. Okay, thank you. And then I never hear from them again. But again, so the whole bottom line is, IRS needs a strong reason. So they just don't give it out, but you give them a strong reason, they will. So again, issued by the IRS with a strong, valid reason, and I'll go into those in a minute. And you can apply through multiple channels. It's definitely not online. They haven't enabled it online. So it is, you can do it in person. So the person can go to the IRS office when they are open, if they are open. They can definitely go there and apply. And there are some who go and apply, and then 6 months later they come and see me saying it didn't work, can you help me? That's okay. And you can always apply by mail, so which is what I generally use, use mail to apply for ITINs, and the form is the form W7 form. That's what is used. There is also a Spanish version that was created a few years ago. The W7SP, I haven't used it, I don't know, but the W7, the English version, is what I use. And the main requirement is you have to prove the individual's identity, and you have to prove the foreign status, right? So you have to prove the foreign status, because if he is a US person, if he is a US citizen, the Social Security Administration is going to give the number, happily. So this means they are generally foreign, and so the IRS wants to know the foreign status, and they want to know the identity of the individual. Who are you? What is your name, right? Proof of your name. And then residency under some circumstances. The key thing is they won't accept photocopies. They want original documents. So they want the original identity document, which 99% is your passport. So they want that. Without that, the IRS will not give it to you, will not give them the ITIN. And they won't accept notarized copies. So you can't take your passport, go to a notary, and then have them certify it. That doesn't work. You can't go to your embassy and certify it. That doesn't work, because they want something, either the original or they want it from the issuer of that document, which is usually the Foreign Passport Authority. And that is usually difficult to get, so generally I work with passports. So notarized copies not allowed, photocopies, none of that allowed. And if they do have a provision. Okay, it can be certified, but only by the issuer of that document. So if it's passport, the Passport Authority of Canada, they have to issue, a copy saying this is certified by them. So, but they have a provision, but it's there. Passport is usually the best document. Okay. So again, as I said, IRS only needs original documents. They don't like these certified copies and all that. And so from a client standpoint, if they need an ITIN, what do? They have to either take the passport to the IRS office and show it to them, or they have to mail their original passport to the IRS. And the website says, they will issue it within 60 days. At least they will return the document within 60 days. They may take longer to process, but at least they'll return the document within 60 days. Okay, and none of my clients want that uncertainty of not having a passport for 60 days. You can't travel, you can't do any of those. So, which means, they can't travel, they can't go overseas, nothing. So that is where a certifying acceptance agent comes in. So the IRS authorized certifying acceptance agents. Okay, well, you be our eyes and ears. Certifying acceptance agent, you can be our eyes and ears. You verify the passports, and you tell us, and we will go with that, right? So that's the solution for avoiding the, sending the passports and so on. Okay, any questions so far? Okay. Okay.
I have a question for you. The government don't accept work with ITIN number, right? The government don't accept to work with ITIN number. On that ITIN number that you mentioned, because it's not Social Security, right? But some people do it. Why should I do in that case? ADP accept working with that. Also, some people, you can open a business with a ITIN number, and the government accept. W-2 also comes with ITIN number and same payment, and the IRS accept, but not benefit for them. Right. That's correct? Yeah. Okay, there's a lot of controversy with that.
Yeah, that is a whole different ball game. That's all Title 8 immigration-related questions. Again, people are doing it. Again, and I get these questions, and my answer to all of them is, it is only for tax reasons, right? You have a filing obligation, you got income, sourced to the United States, you owe the IRS money. This is a vehicle for you to track and, pay your taxes. The misuses of that, that's the appropriate department has to look at it. That's all I can say. Yeah, there are people doing it, but it is what it is. Yeah. Okay, but again, we have ethical rules, right? We can, go by what we have. We can't, do anything else. So that's my answer to that. But yeah, there are people doing it. Okay, so what can a certifying acceptance agent do for this client, right? So they don't want to send the passport, obviously. It can get lost, and if it's lost, tough luck, right? A bigger problem to get it, reissued by your, the respective country's government. And you can't get the IRS on the phone to track it down. So this is, there is a provision, but none of my clients want this, and that's why they come to certifying acceptance agents. So if you are in a location, you can definitely become a certifying acceptance agent and offer that services, and I'll cover that in the last slide. So what can a certifying acceptance agent do for the clients, right? So they prepare the W-7, that's the formal ITIN application form, and you also have to verify the identity of the person. You also have to verify their foreign status, okay? And along with that, you also need to make sure that the document you are given, the passport you're given, is authentic, it's not been forged, and so on. So that's one of the trainings that you need to do to spot, fraudulent passports and so on, right? So that's one of the prerequisites, and I will cover that. So you have to verify the identity, you have to verify the foreign status of the person, and then you also have to tell the IRS, and there's a separate form that certifying agents have to sign, that's the COA form, Certificate of Accuracy, that I verified so-and-so documents and they look good, right? You have to certify that. And then all these need to be mailed to the IRS ITIN operations, and that's only in Austin. So Austin, Texas is the only department for the whole country which does ITIN processing. That's the only address that you can mail this to. And again, the originals go back to the client. So the passport, all those things go back to the client. And then, because the agent is the IRS's, unpaid IRS's eyes and ears, right? That's how it is. So, and again, so if you're applying this for tax reasons, for filing a 1040 and so on, the 1040 can be prepared by anybody. There is nothing that says the agent has to prepare. Somebody, one of you can prepare the 1040, and then another agent can just do the ITIN application, verify the documents, and send it to the IRS. So, and that's perfectly valid. Okay. Okay. And so IRS accepts a lot of supporting documents. So there are a lot of ways that you can verify the identity, verify the foreign status. So you need one document from each column. That's the general rule. 99% passport is the best document. Passport from the foreign country verifies the foreign status, verifies your identity. That's the best document. There are a few more, visa and driver's license and so on. If the client does not have the other passport, this is usually the other documents are sufficient. Frankly, I have never had to work with the other documents. I tell them, go get a passport if it is, about to expire, or, I just tell them, go get a new one. And then, they apply, and a few months later, they come to me with that. Because that's the best document. Everything else, it's there. And if you have to, again, you'll be trained on how to look at the other documents and send them. But again, passport is the best document. Okay, so the application process, so again, so this has to be paper mailed, so no electronic filing. They've never done that. Wet signatures. So it has to be paper mailed to the IRS ITIN operations department at Austin, Texas. And the supporting document has to go with it, right? So if the supporting document is a tax return, and the tax return has dependents needing the ITIN, the tax return goes, the application goes. Everything has to be mailed together, right? And from a logistics standpoint, the ITIN department first issues the number, and then they send it to the tax department to process the return, right? And then, applicable credits and so on and so forth. And the general rule, it's always taken like 6 to 8 weeks. I think peak months, it takes up to 3 months. Now, shut down, no idea. And so, is there a question? No. Okay. Yeah. And then, so it takes 2 to 3 months for the ITIN to be issued, and then another 3 months because it's a paper return. So if you have a refund, the refund is not coming for another 6-7 months. So, okay, I'll be quick. Okay, so best practice, if you are working with clients who have to apply for an ITIN, please apply for a valid extension. Okay, just even if you are doing it in February, even if you are doing it in March, please apply for a valid extension, because for some reason, if the application gets rejected and you don't have an extension, then all the credits and other things are going to get denied. So just at least please file an extension. That's the main one I just wanted to mention. Okay, so from a state return standpoint, so if you have clients who come to you, hey, my child does not have a social, they need to apply for an ITIN, so you're going to apply for an extension. That's whether needed or not. And so you do that extension. You can't file the state return. State returns, at least Arizona, they need the ITIN. So even if you send it, they're going to send it back. So state return, put them on extension, and then once this number comes through, then you regenerate the state return, you send it in, right? Okay, yes, there was a question? How do you find so again, the extensions are needed only when you have dependents, because many of the dependent credits go by, the number has to be issued before the extended due date or the regular due date. Okay, so which means you always have at least one taxpayer with the number already in hand. Okay, so you file an extension based on that. If it is a non-resident return, right, it's usually one person. You don't need an extension. You can file 1 year down the line, 2 years down the line. So the extensions are generally good when you have dependents who need this ITIN. Yeah, if the primary taxpayer, yeah, so if primary and secondary taxpayer with 2 children show up and none of them have any number to go with, yeah, that's going to be tough. So what I usually say is, okay, the primary and secondary, you can get an ITIN, the children next year. Okay, because, yeah, there is no extension to go by. I mean, I haven't tried it where you file a blank 4868 saying, this is, an extension, every ITIN is getting applied. I don't know how successful it's going to be, because the computers are just going to spit this out, send out CP11s and so on. It's tricky, but again, the other thing I look at is, from a time standpoint, the other dependent credit is $500 per child. So how much of time do you want to invest? Something to balance. Yes.
In my experience, I've had non-resident aliens who worked here, but they were married, and even if you filed married filing separately for the IRS, but many states would not accept the return without an ITIN or a valid number for the spouse, even if they were filing separately. And I tried applying for an ITIN for a spouse, but she didn't have U.S. earnings.
Yeah.
They was not at rent.
Correct.
Is there any movement toward that? And the IRS says,
Yeah, again, so that is a state problem, right? And I think there is a provision in the IRS somewhere that says, we are not going to issue it because some states said they want it. So I think that's probably something to bring up with the IRS just to see what they can do. Yeah, okay, that's a good question. So is there a registry for CAAs? Yeah, there is an IRS website. There is a link on the IRS website where you can search for certifying acceptance agents by state, and even by other countries. Like there are other countries, who have certifying acceptance agents. India, you have, United Arab Emirates and England and so on. So, again, I get calls from clients, England and other countries. So if they don't want to send the passport to me, I tell them, okay, this is the link. These are the few people in your area. Go to them. They can do what I do, right? So, but yes, there is a directory. I think if you just do a Google search on CAAs in New York, I'm pretty sure it'll pop up. Okay, I'll try to be quick. Sorry. Okay, so again, state return, put it on extension if you can. So some case studies. The normal case study that again, these are generally cases that I get. Primary taxpayer is on a work visa. The spouse and children don't have, the ITINs. You apply, and you apply category E, category D. This is on the application form. Similarly, non-resident aliens who have property in the U.S., it collects rental income and so on. In this case, they sell the property. They've rented it. It's an investment property. Doesn't matter. So when they go to sell, they have FERPTA withholding, and you need to get them back. So you apply for ITIN using that. Similarly, rental property, foreign folks with rental property, you apply. That's one way to apply. And then, people passing through, like, so people who come from Canada who raise horses, here, so they get some earnings. They do this. Similarly, casinos, like, people go to Vegas and they win big, and they have to fly the next day. They need an ITIN for withholding purposes. So those are some reasons. And then how do you become one? There is a training that you need to do. There's a forensic training that you have to do from certified providers. And then it used to be a paper application. You send fingerprints and all that. Now it's all electronic. And then they do some background check. And then they issue they certify you as a certifying acceptance agent. And then there is ongoing compliance monitoring. Are you doing your work properly? Are you, just sending documents that are consistently getting rejected, and so on and so forth? So they do checks. They do those checks. Okay, that's it. Any questions?
If you have questions, ask them on the way to your next class. You've got 5 minutes before Jane starts. Thanks, PK.
Okay, thank you, everyone.